Hi fellow enthusiasts, welcome to my channel. Let's go into today's video and we're going to come back at the end to wrap it up. We are going to make a few more modifications to the admin chart. As you noticed from the previous episode, when you type a message here, let's say hello there, and you press enter, it will return to the next line, which is the carriage return, and doesn't send your message. So we fixed that by implementing a method that calls the send chat function once you hit the enter button. What we didn't fix in that episode was the fact that I can actually send an empty message. For instance, if I just click the submit button here, I'll just send nothing to the users, just like that. Just by clicking on submit or pressing enter, will send nothing. Guest says nothing. Admin says nothing. And this is not desirable. So we want to prevent a user from sending empty or blank messages. Now, you're able to send, I think, just one blank message at a time, because we have prevented this from the server, where we'll check the last message you sent. If it's exactly the same as the previous, if your current message is exactly the same as the previous, it doesn't send it. So we've protected for that. But if the other recipient sent you blank, then you can send another blank. The reason it allows different people to send blanks is because every message is preceded by the name of the user. So it's seen as a different message. However, the message body is blank. Now we've gone ahead to fix this, so we're going to show you how we fix this in the codes. So let's go to our Sublime text quickly. Here, when we submit our text, we'll check if the message is starting with a particular value, and that will be the user. And then the string, the message received, the event data, we declared it as a variable, and that's the str variable. When that variable starts with the user, we know he is the sender. So we've moved this logic from our server.php. We used to have it here. We moved it to this JavaScript. And so we append this as the user, and then we append the message, the event data, have some breaks, and then we append the time when the message was sent or when the message was received. And then if the message received doesn't contain my username as the leading characters, then I must be a recipient. So I will, to the inner HTML, append the callout for receiver, append the data and some breaks, and also time when I received the message. This is a little bit more elegant because it shows you when the message was received, and also who sent the message and the appropriate callouts. And then to prevent you from sending empty strings, we'll check here in the send message. Where is it? So where do we check for that? Right here in the send chat. When you click on the send chat button, what we had previously was just this section of the code, but we improved the code a little bit by checking for empty strings. So we said when you get a text value, trim it, remove every extra spaces. If it is not blank, do what you normally did. Else, if that means it was blank or empty, then tell the user to enter a message. They can't send an empty message, they need to type in a message first. We've done that, and then we did another improvement, and that is in the username. Let's go back and look at what happens here. So if I want to start this application afresh, I can just enter as a blank user, and I can start sending messages. Welcome blank user, and admin will be with you soon. Then I'll start sending blank messages. I can also send blank message as a blank user. Blank user says blank. Then I reply to blank user, as guest, and I say blank to the guest. to the blank user, and then the message goes back and forth. Blank user tells me nothing, I'll tell blank user nothing, and it goes back and forth. So what we did to prevent you from sending blank messages is to check if the message you're sending has a content. If it is not blank, then it has a content. Then go ahead and do this. Else, ask the user to add a message. We do the same for the username. Right here, when we are prompting the user to enter a username, we'll check if the field was blank. If it was not blank, then it contains some value. Then we do these. Else, then it is blank. Ask the user to choose a username, and then you call the function one more time. Hence the reason we created this function. So we have to call it as a function. So when you start from here, you call the function. Without this function here, there's no way to enter this cycle. So we call it here, we call the function here, you execute this, and then you check if the name is blank. If it is blank, ask me to enter username, else perform the original function. Basically that's what we did. And then for the time that we displayed for each message we receive, we had to create another CSS, a style for the time. So here in our CSS, we created a styling. We can just use different colors here. So let's try different color. Let's use like floral white. Let's try that floral white and save it. And then that's basically it. So we call the function, and then we said it's gonna be aligned to the right. The font size is 12, and then we can also change the color to anything we want. In this case, let's just stick with floral white. You can do any other thing that you want to do. That's basically it. So with this, our application is more complete. We can do a few more modifications later, but it's more complete. We basically made some changes here and transfer the functions here that normally checked if the message is for the user or for the sender. We've transferred that code to the JavaScript. It's more elegant now, more streamlined, still heavily commented just in case we need to review why we did certain things. We can see why we did that. And also here we have a timer, the time appended to the inner HTML, but we commented it out now. If you leave this in, if you uncomment this, you can see the time at the top and then the message at the bottom. We can show both of them, so why don't we just do it right away? So let's go and do this right now. Alright, so as you can see, the messages are being displayed here. The message at the top and the time at the bottom. Right, so I'm going to try to send empty message. Okay, click send. You cannot send an empty message. Please enter a message first before sending. Alright, let me try pressing enter. You cannot send an empty message. Alright, same message displayed for both cases. Good. Now let's refresh this and try to just submit it blank user. Please choose a username first. So I can't sign in as a blank user. Right, this is great. So you can do this in such a way that you display a funny joke or a funny meme to the user. If they are tempted to join several times as blank users, you can just ask them, are you a ghost? Alright, so that's it. Alright, so one more change we did was, as you fill out the body of this message, fill out body. In our last episode, you were only able to scroll to the latest -1 message. In other words, the last message that enters into your repo.txt triggers the scrolling. However, when the server retrieves that message and echoes it to your data your event data. By the time this is done, the scrolling was already completed. That resulted in you having your latest -1 message scrolled to. To fix this, we used this approach here. First of all, we append the new message to the body.inner.html, and then we scroll. Obviously, this body is the ID of the message holder or the message body. So once you append the messages, then you scroll. So we're going to see that in action, but before that, let's also change this and save that. I'm going to do the same here, change, save that. Oh, why don't we just delete the extra time that is displayed? So here, alright, so we're going to delete this and we're going to delete that. Alright, save. Alright, save. What we're going to achieve with this change is that we're going to have this time separated from the body of the message and just above. Alright. Okay, so as you can see, the time is displayed on the top and the message below it. So let's try. It's so much. Anyway, so this is the chart, and you can see the time the message was received and then the message that follows. So you can choose any format you want. Again, you don't have to display this to the right. It can be center, it can be left, it can be displayed anywhere you want. Let's just try center here. Alright, so I think this is now money, and yeah, so this is displayed center. You can also display right or left if you want. Alright, so let's display left. We did right, center. Now let's do left. And we're gonna change this one here. Alright, you can see the message says left. Thanks. You can see the time to the left. You are welcome. Darian. Alright, so that's how the chat goes. Now if I'm the sender all the time, hello dear, what's up? You can see for the recipient, the scrolling continues and the messages keeps piling beneath. The reason for this is when I'm reading a message, if I scroll up to read a message, I don't want the message to scroll automatically down when I receive a new message. So I would prefer it stays down there while I'm reading the previous messages, while I read previous messages. Alright, so stay right down there. But as soon as I send a message, a message, scroll. That's what is preferred. I want you to scroll upon my message and keeps my message in focus, right? I can read it right away, and if I see an error, I can correct it right away. I'm not trying to be grammatically correct or typographically correct. I just want to send something now. But if you're sending a real message to someone, it might be confusing if the terms are not very clear. So we've tested this now. So this is center, that is left aligned for the time. And for my best preference is what we had before. So let's just change it to right, and then change it to floral white. Save that, and then go to our script here and just change this back to what it was. yeah, save. I prefer the time within the messages, but separated and at the bottom. So right, and here we're gonna change this to, all right, so I prefer this way. So the time the message was received is within the message and at the bottom right. All right. All right, a little more recap here. A little more recap. We have prevented you from sending a blank message. We have also prevented you from signing in as an anonymous user. Even though we don't validate your email or username, we still want to make sure that it is someone that is trying to use the application. All right, local hosts, admin chat, index.php. All right, I see there's a typo in that local host. An L was missing. All right, so we've prevented you from signing in with a blank username. You must enter a username to continue. And then we also prevented you from sending blank messages. Right, so these are the improvements we've added in this episode, episode 6 of this series. And then we've included a time. All right, and we've shown how to align the time. You can put it within the message or above the message. You can align it center, left, or right. Any way you want, you can align it. Even now, the way it is here, I can also align it right, center, or left. Just go to your styling in your CSS and you can do the alignment. Okay, I think that's basically the improvement we have for this episode. So right here, we've changed the code for the callout and put it within the JavaScript. And in the JavaScript, we are taking the event data, assigning it this variable str, and we are checking if that variable str, which contains the event data, if it starts with your username. Your username or the user was assigned as the new user, and the new user was the name that you entered, was a variable assigned to the name that you entered from the original prompt. So when we prompted you enter the name, we called it the username or the new user, and then we assigned that as the username. The username is appended, the value of the new user is appended to your username or is assigned to your username. And then down here we are saying that the user, which is the variable we choose to use here, is the new user. Once we do that, remember we have to we declared all our variables here, or most of them here. So once you do that, then we are checking if the event data starts with the username, then you are the sender. We're going to use the ID for the callout as the sender. Else, we don't check if you contain any other thing. We just know you are not the sender, so you must be the recipient. Right, and remember we had to use this, we had to listen to the event from the event listener. We're listening for new event, which is the event that is echoed from our server. The server is echoing the new event here, and once we it's almost like subscribing to this topic. We've subscribed to this topic of new event, and when a message is broadcast on that new event, we receive it and we'll check if the message starts with our name, then we are the senders, else we are the receivers. And that is coming from, the message is coming from the repo or our repository here, or our database, if you will. So we're just taking the messages here and then we're arranging them as an array and taking the last entry and then echoing that to all recipients. All recipients will receive this message that is being echoed out, and then each person will check if their name is the starting strings for the event data, in which case they are the senders, else they are the recipients. All right, thanks for sticking around to the end. That will be it from us today. Please, if you have not subscribed, do so right now, and don't forget to like and share this video. Until we come your way again with more contents, stay enthused.